Hello and welcome back to League Two Lowdown, the podcast that proves you do not need VAR to have a nervous breakdown. You just need to support a team in the fourth tier of English football. I'm your host today, Harry, and I'm joined today by the man who I'm assuming is still recovering from his team's result at the weekend. Luke, how are we doing, mate?
I don't know how I feel, to be honest. I don't know if it's a good point or a bad point, because I think coming into it, I was thinking, oh yeah, only 3 points. But then I see Jonathan Leco's in the side, and he's our sixth choice striker. But more on that later. I don't want to start a rant like minute into the pod, but yeah, not too bad.
We'll get into all that drama shortly. But first, let's have a bit of the work to do in the background here, a bit of housekeeping. We've got a massive update for you guys. We've had a bit of a glow up on social. So if you're looking for us on X, we are now living at the handle The Deck EFL. It's the official new home for all the EFL content you could ever wish for. And while you're at it, smash that subscribe button. Wherever you're listening or watching, it helps the algorithm. It feeds our egos and it also ensures that you never miss an episode. So, right, that's enough of that. We've got free thrillers, red cards, and last minute winners to discuss. So let's get into it. And where's better to start than with Crewe, where we had an absolute barnstormer between two real promotion hopefuls here, Crewe Alexandra and Chesterfield. If you like goals, this was the game for you. It finished up in the end with both teams going away with 1 point. But honestly, early on, it looked like Chesterfield were going to run away with it. There were huge moments in the first half and really in the first half an hour where James Berry started the party just 9 minutes in, curling a lovely effort into the far corner. And then just 15 minutes later, Mark Ende up again. I think we mentioned it a few weeks ago on the podcast that he hadn't been doing much. And then since then, he's just been running away with it. He cuts back in. Lee Bonnis is there to sweep it home at the near post. And that's 2-0, 24 minutes in, and Crewe looked in trouble. But the Railway men showed a lot of character. They got a lifeline right before the break, with Tesgirl converting a penalty after Che Dunkley tripped Owen Lunt. That changed the mood entirely, and coming out for the second half, Crewe flew out of the blocks. Agius arrived at the back post to head in an equaliser, and suddenly it's 2-2. But it didn't stop there. Mark Ende put Chesterfield back in front with a volley around the 65th minute, but Crewe just wouldn't go away. 4 minutes later, James Connolly glanced a header in from a corner to make it 3-3. And then Crewe actually had a few chances to win it in late, but they had to settle for a point. So Luke, looking at this one, fighting back from 2-0 down, which I'm sure you can appreciate in particular. And then against a side like Chesterfield, showing massive resilience from Crewe. But from Chesterfield's perspective, does this blowing a 2-goal lead raise some questions about their game management away from home?
Well, it certainly raises questions of the defence, which is kind of an ongoing thing that we keep mentioning in this pod. We keep coming back to it, but it is an improvement on the 7-1 from the EFL Trophy. This was my game of the match week over on our socials on the TikTok that we've got. So go check that out if you haven't already. And I'm very glad I picked it, to be honest, because this game was pure entertainment value. It's pretty much summarised by the opening goal, to be fair. I mean, Crewe hit the bar, and within about 10 seconds, ball's down the other end of the pitch, and Chesterfield had scored the opener instead. So pure chaos, and I'm totally here for it. It's a fantastic advertisement for League Two football. To be honest, I'm actually really impressed with Crewe in this game. I know they went down on multiple occasions, but in terms of their attacking play, this was them at their absolute best. You know, they were taking tons of shots. I think it was like 22 or something like that. There's a lot of shots going off. Is the point? And any chance they had to pressure the Chesterfield defence or get a shot away, they clearly did. And they've got 3 goals, hit the woodwork at least 2 more times, missed other very close chances as well. So although they were behind for a lot of the game, which is the frustrating part, that the defence didn't match up to the attack, I'm still very impressed with the overall performance, because if you can attack like that in this league, then more often than not, that's going to be enough to get you the 3 points. It's just on this occasion, they've kind of shot themselves in the foot a couple of times with the defending. I think it was the third goal in particular that they conceded that frustrated me a little bit, just in terms of the defensive setup. But I do want to individually shout out Emre Tezgol as well. I mean, the nuisance the entire game. Obviously won the penalty, scored it himself. It's a good pen when the keeper dives the right way and still doesn't get anywhere near it. And then he's obviously one wonderful cross as well for one of the other goals. And unfortunate not to get a winner right at the very end. Unfortunately, Sky had a big chance. I think legs may have just gone right at the very, very end. But for me, this is everything I wanted to see from Crewe. There is a very good performance there that they can now build on. If Crewe play like that every week, just with maybe some slight adjustments in defence, I think that they'll look like a very, very good side. It's them playing at their absolute most confident best, essentially. Whereas with Chesterfield,
I mean, they look really good. I'm really impressed with Crewe, and you're right. This sort of shows to me that Crewe, they can push on. I think they've been quite inconsistent, but this is a sort of performance where you go, okay, you're 2-0 down, you could easily sort of pack it in, but to get it back and then again, a really good result for them. And probably happy with the point, with everything that has happened in that game. So a really good game and a good shout for match of the week there from you.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Finally got one that actually worked out that way, which is nice. I will just add on Chesterfield, I do want to credit them for the chances they did. They did take. They didn't get too many, but they were very efficient when it came to finishing their dinner. It just comes back to the whole defence. It's kind of a case of we're just praising the attack of both teams. Defence needs a bit of work, but I think there's more concern there on Chesterfield's end because it's not the first time they've conceded quite a few this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's head over to Highbury next, where Fleetwood Town just keep rolling at home. They've extended their unbeaten run now on their own patch to 10 games with a pretty convincing 3-1 win over a struggling Shrewsbury side. Pete Wild has really turned that place into a fortress, hasn't he? They took the lead with a bit of real quality. Matty Virtue played a great ball through, and Graydon produced this little delicate lob over the keeper to make it 1-0. It was a great finish. They doubled that lead just before the hour mark. Lewis McCann did well to cut inside and fizz a ball across the goal. It took a nasty ricochet off defender Sam Stubbs and nestled into the far corner. But Fleetwood won't care how they go in. Matty Virtue, who set up the first goal, wrapped up the points himself. He found space in a really crowded box and just side-footed a neat finish into the bottom corner, and it was game over. Shrewsbury did get a late goal through Arsenal loanee Cavia, but it never really looked like sparkling a comeback for Michael Apperton's men, and the game had gone by that point anyway. The only blemish for Fleetwood was right at the death. James Bolton got a straight red for an off-the-ball clash with Chuks Aneke, which was a very strange one where they were a bit tangled up, and then Aneke did his best dive impression and ended up on the floor. And, it's one of those where you could probably just see the game out and don't get into those moments, but obviously a few words there, and he's ended up with a second red and off he goes. But looking at the bigger picture, Luke, Pete Wild has made them incredibly tough to beat at home. With that 10-game streak, do you think that home form is going to be a deciding factor in pushing Fleetwood towards a playoff spot this season?
Oh, I think it has to be. Typically the route to a successful team in terms of results is you win your home games, and if you grab what you can, maybe grab a point or three on the road. So every win you get, you can kind of build up that momentum at home. It is absolutely huge. So absolutely credit to Fleetwood for that. I will admit I have some concerns over the performance. I know statistically this it looked like they controlled this game, but it does feel like kind of like Shrewsbury kind of, I don't know, they kind of did a lot of the work for Fleetwood is probably how I put it. Not with the first goal. I think the first goal is a good move, although I do question the defending from Shrewsbury to allow Graydon to run directly through the middle of about three of them, which I do have separate concerns about. But aside from that, the first half was relatively even. That was kind of the only time Shrewsbury kind of let Fleetwood in, and unfortunately for them, they got punished for it. The second half was probably a frustrating one for me for Shrewsbury, because I think both the other goals are individual mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cost them any chance of getting back into the game. So yes, nice that they've managed to at least get a consolation, but it kind of just feels like there was an unnecessary collapse there. And I don't think it's necessarily anything the team did wrong, because like I said, it was more just individual mistakes, and it kind of just put the game out of reach for them. I mean, I know Fleetwood did take their chances very, very well. Didn't necessarily create as much as I'd like them to. It's not the most convinced I've been by our home performance, but the important thing is obviously that they got the points, which that's what helps you towards your goal at the end of the season. But yeah, it's pretty solid. And then, as you say, it's just also that red card at the end, so unnecessary from James Bolton, and he's experienced enough that he should know better to not get himself into that situation. And ultimately, that's a key player that's now missing for the next 1-2 games, which very conveniently is against us. So thanks for that, James. We'll absolutely take it.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about Shrewsbury as well? I mean, there was lots of talk quite a while back, not even quite a while back, a few weeks ago, really, about Michael Appington and his job, and they've got a few results here or there, but again, this result sort of show him. No, the performance wasn't that bad overall, but really, what do we think? Do we think Michael Appleton's still looking over his shoulder and wondering if he's going to be in that job for a long term?
Well, I think he's bought himself a little bit of time with the previous results from the last month or so. Obviously,
Yeah,
the big one was the win over Newport. I think if they lose that, it's perhaps a different story, because ultimately those are the most important games. Beat the teams around you when you're at the bottom, because those points are harder to come by. But you look at some of the previous results from the last sort of month or so. There have been some decent ones there. Point away at Oldham, obviously beating Crawley and Cambridge. Yes, they lost to Crewe, but Crewe are a decent side and starting to pick up
yeah,
form again. So for me, it's less about this individual result, and it's more about how they bounce back in the next couple of game weeks. And don't get me wrong, there are some tricky fixtures coming up now. So obviously, as I'm sure you're aware, it is Gillingham next.
yes,
Then a short break with the FA Cup, and then they've got Grimsby, Walsall, and Chesterfield, which is a very, very tricky run. I'd like to see them nab some points there, at least. If this is 4 losses in a row, I start to become a whole lot more concerned. I need to
yeah.
see that fight back now.
Yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, isn't it? So let's have a look. Where should we go next? Big result down at the Meadow Lane. I reckon we can go there next, where Colchester United pulled off a fantastic comeback, really here to beat promotion chasing Notts County. It was a real statement win because they've ended County's 6-match unbeaten run, and they had to do it the hard way. It started as a bit of a nightmare for the U's. Just 7 minutes in, they go 1-0 down to a very messy goal where Kane Vincent-Young got the final touch after a miscue in the box. At that point, you're thinking it's going to be a long afternoon for Colchester. But Colchester responded almost immediately. The county keeper, Kelly Roos, rushing out to clear a ball and didn't get anywhere near it. Fell straight to Harry Anderson, who kept his cool and lifted a finish into the empty net from about 20 yards out. A nice finish as well. I have to give a shout out as well to Matt Macy in the Colchester goal too. He made some massive saves against Connor Grant before the half time to keep them level. And those saves proved crucial, because the second half, completely against the run of play, Colchester took the lead. And Vic drilled a low finish after a great ball from Kyrie Slisby. Notts County tried to get back into it, but Colchester sealed the deal deep into stoppage time with a goal from Will Goodwin to make it 3-1. That's now 5 wins in 7 league games for Colchester. So, Luke, they've beaten the top side away from home and they're racking up the points. Do we need to start looking at this Colchester team as genuine threats for the playoffs, or do we think it's just a bit of a purple patch?
It's absolutely time to start looking at them as a very, very good side. I'd kind of been waiting for them to give us some kind of inkling, and weirdly, it's happened at a time where I keep coming back to it. They don't have Jack Payne. like,
No.
like somehow someone that's so influential in their midfield, somehow him being missing seems to have brought another level out of them. I
Yeah.
suppose just other players taking their opportunities, and actually I thought this was a very well managed game, and I'd say it's probably the best result of the weekend.
Mm.
I mean, obviously they were set back very early. I think it's quite an unfortunate own goal for Kane Vincent-Young, although admittedly, if he had been the right side of his man, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But besides the point, uh,
Mm.
the thing is they do fight back very, very well, although they are admittedly assisted by Kelly Roos having a bit of a disaster class.
Yeah.
Obviously tried to rush out for the first goal, kind of just slide tackles it into an opposition player.
Yeah.
Yeah, great job. Harry Anderson's not going to miss. A player of his quality is always going to score from that with an open goal like that. And then I think again for the third goal, I'm looking at the goalkeeper. It's at his near post. It's not. I mean, it's a powerful shot, but not like, not enough that he should be getting beaten at his near post.
Mm.
It is probably the way I'd put it. So yeah, I mean, Colchester had barely any of the ball. I think that worked perfectly for them. We saw two very contrasting styles there, actually. And I think it was, despite the stats of this game probably favouring Notts, I actually think these two were quite evenly matched. And it was just a case of, when they had their chances, Colchester were the more clinical of the two. And from a Notts perspective, I just look at that first half, and I think some of the chances they had in that time, they had to go in, and well, obviously they didn't, and Colchester punished them for that. So absolutely a huge win for Colchester, and they are on the verge of finally reaching the top half of the table and really starting to catch up to the pack now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a statement really. Notts County really hard to beat at home, and to do it in that fashion, coming from 1-0 down as well and getting a result. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got to start looking at this Colchester team. Once they've got things clicking, they seem like they're now moving on. And you're right, without Jack Payne, I put the start of the season for Colchester when they weren't putting points to the fact that Jack Payne wasn't really doing much and his performances weren't great, but it seems like they're doing fine without him now. So more of the same from Colchester. And then looking at Notts County, it's one of those games where you can sort of go, well, it's one of those days, we'll put it behind us and move on, but they need to make sure that it's not becoming a bit of a sequence here where they start winning and then they start losing and it becomes a bit inconsistent. They want to get back on a run and be pushing up the table again. But it's a team to watch in Colchester. Hoping that they can push up the table a little bit more. So let's have a look. Oh yes, this is a game I've been looking forward to reviewing. Turning our attention to Boundary Park now, where all eyes were on the dugout as Premier League winner Christian Fuchs took charge of Newport County for the first time. Unfortunately for the former Leicester man, there was no new manager bounce. It ended in a tough 3-0 defeat against Oldham. To be fair to Newport and Christian Fuchs, they actually held their own for the first 45 minutes and they wasn't too bad. And it was goalless at the break. And they look quite organised. And I mean, he's not been in there for long. So it's one of those where you're requiring the players to go out and try to perform for their new manager and show what they can do. But as with a lot of Newport performances this season, they couldn't keep it up. The resistance completely crumbled early in the second half, and 8 minutes after the restart, Josh Hawkes broke the deadlock, pouncing on a rebound after Jordan Wright couldn't hold a header, just absolutely fumbled it, and there was the first goal. Then, in typical football fashion, it was former Newport loanee Joe Quigley who came back to haunt them. He tapped in from close range to double the lead. And Oldham, who have really struggled for goals themselves this season, only scored 13 in the previous 16 games, suddenly looked like they couldn't miss. And Josh Hawkes grabbed his second right at the death to wrap up a 3-0 win. So it keeps Newport rooted to the bottom of the table, unfortunately, 4 points adrift now. And Luke Christian Fuchs, it's obviously a big name with a great playing pedigree, but taking over the team rock bottom of League Two is a massive first job in management. And based on the second half collapse, do you think he has enough time and enough quality in the dressing room to actually pull off a great escape here? Or do you think Newport are doomed?
I mean, he's got the time. I just don't think he's got the experience, which was kind of my initial reaction to it in the first place. Is uh, I was very critical in the summer of Newport taking yet another risk and going for an inexperience. And obviously it's backfired. They've realised their mistake. Uh, Obviously decided to get in a new manager, and then they've gone and made the same mistake again.
Yeah.
It just make it make sense. Please just use common sense with your decisions. I mean, obviously he must interview well. There
Yeah.
must be something that the chairman is seeing there to suggest that it could work. And well, I mean, for their sake, I sincerely hope he's right. Because if this is the way they get relegated, then it is a really, really poor look. Um, and I mean, yes, they put up a bit of a fight for the first half. They had a couple of half chances here or there, but I mean, just looking at the second half defending, I mean, some of it was absolutely criminal. You cannot leave a man totally unmarked at the back post for like, yes, it was a rebound, but that ball could have easily gone to him at any point, and Newport wouldn't have dealt with it because there just simply wasn't. The marking
No.
was all wrong. And then you look at the organisation for the second goal, same again. There's always a spare player, it seems, and they're just not organised, and they're not communicating properly with each other. There are so many problems to fix, and it feels like you need a proven leader on the sidelines that's gonna iron these things out. And I'm not necessarily convinced that Fuchs is that. Obviously, wish him well, and I'd love to see him succeed there. And if he does, it'll absolutely set him up for life as a
Yeah.
manager in the EFL. But if this goes wrong, I mean, this Newport management job is becoming a bit of a poison chalice at the minute. And with a performance like this one, I'm not seeing the vision. I'm just not. I do have to credit Oldham at least a little bit. I don't think they were clinical enough in the first half, but they did put that right with their finishing in the second half and some very good moves there as well. I'd like to see them do that in some other games against teams that are going to put up a bit more of a fight. But still, it is a very good win, and well, a nice goal difference fixing one as well. A nice little
Yeah.
free goal difference there.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to beat what's put in front of you, and unfortunately, Newport are proving the team that for everyone in the league going to them, it's 3 points or it's or you failed that day because they seem like an easy win at the moment. So Christian Fuchs, good luck to him. Hopefully, he can do something there. Um, but yeah, a really hard job and a bit of, as you say, a bit of a poison chalice. So enough of wins. Back to the draws we go, and another absolute cracker at the county ground this time, where Grimsby showed incredible heart. Again, another team fighting back from 2 goals down to rescue a point against Swindon. For the first 15 minutes, it seemed like Swindon were going to steamroll them. Ollie Palmer put them ahead after 7 minutes with a really clever header, as we know he does. That's why they brought him. Absolutely clever header again. And then 6 minutes later, Billy Bowden was left completely unmarked to hammer a shot into the roof of the net. 2-0, 13 minutes gone, game over. Or so we thought. Grimsby clawed their way back into it almost immediately. Kieran Green jabbed one home in the 22nd minutes after Swindon's defence got themselves in a bit of a muddle. And then just before half time, the comeback was complete. George McEachran was brought down in the box, and Danny Rose, there he is again, stepped up to bury the penalty 2-2 going into the break. And we thought, that set up a amazing second half, and we're going to see a cricket scoreline here. But it ended 2-2. The second half was agonising for Swindon fans. They knew a win would take them top of the league, and they threw everything at it. And Ollie Palmer missed a golden one-on-one chance. But Richard O'Donnell made a historic save in the Grimsby goal and somehow keeping out a pile drive from Will Wright as well. So it ended 2-2. But Luke, this feels like a bit of a psychological blow for Swindon. When you 2-0 up at home with a chance to go top of the league and you let that slip, how much does that damage the confidence compared to just, getting a standard draw against Grimsby, which would have been a good result at the start of the day anyway?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, this, because obviously, they've thrown away quite a lead there. Um, but at the same time, it wasn't a full collapse. It very easily could have been. It could have ended up being a defeat. You get back to 2-2 and suddenly the momentum's against you. And as you said, I don't think either team really kicked on it in the second half. So they did manage to recover it in that sense, which, I think that's worth noting. So perhaps maybe not quite as bad of a psychological hit as it could have been. But it does show some vulnerabilities at least. Although I will say that first Grimsby goal, that was just quite enjoyable to watch. To be fair play Charles Burnham and Kieran Green. That was a fun one. And then it's the second goal. It's just scrappy defending, isn't it? And then don't clear your lines, and in the end, it kind of results in a penalty. And Grimsby have finally scored a penalty that's not in a shootout. So congrats, keep Danny Rose on him. That's a good idea. Keep Cabia away from them. We've learned that this season. But no, it's one of those. It's kind of just to take it and move on. I think for both sides really, because I think we've kind of seen a bit of the best and a bit of the worst of what both teams have to offer in this game. And for Grimsby, if I'm talking the worst side of things, it's set pieces. That's it's the source of both goals, and it's not the first time this season where they've just let a long throw straight through the middle of their defence and somehow found its way into the middle and goal, because they did the exact same thing against us. And that's really proving to be a sort of problem area for them. I'd say especially the long throws. It seems to unsettle them. So there's clearly some work that needs to be done in that department. Like I said, I'm a little frustrated on their part that they didn't carry that momentum forward more into the second half, but it's still a decent point on the road, so I don't want to be overly critical. But yeah, other than that, the only other point I've got written down here is a Swindon one, and that's that Aaron Drinnan is back next game, which is Chesterfield away, and that's a big decision for Ian Holloway to make as to who he drops. Ollie Palmer's now 3 goals from his last 4 games, so it's probably going to be either Paul Glatzel or Billy Bowden that makes way, and Bowden just scored, so he's got some tricky decisions there to make for the next game, but perhaps some nice ones, and perhaps in terms of psychology, that could actually be quite a huge boost.
Yeah, really good point actually. Swindon, I think Swindon are going to be absolutely fine. As I say, I think maybe going into this one, you say a point against Grimsby is a good result anyway. And they still look solid, and I think the fact that they sort of stopped Grimsby coming back into it and getting a win in that second half as well, with the momentum that they had coming from 2-0 down, is probably a good thing for them. So yeah, keep watching this space with Swindon and with Grimsby as well, as both teams are still looking to be really pushing off and competing at the top end of the table. So talking about 2-2 draws, I know you've been sweating over this one. We have to talk about your boys, MK Dons, and their trip to Tranmere. Yeah, we do, yeah. And their trip to Tranmere. Talk about a roller coaster. For the first 45 minutes, it looked like a disaster for Paul Warren's side. Charlie Whitaker was running the show for Tranmere. He scored early on and then latched onto a long pass to slot home a second before the half an hour mark. So MK, they're down 2-0 at half time, staring down the barrel of defeat, and everyone's going, what on earth is happening? But then came one of the craziest 4-minute spells of football I've seen all season. So first, John Mellish gives you hope, dashing one home from the edge of the box. His first goal for the club, is that right?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that's game on. But then literally 60 seconds later, Jonathan Lecco, who was already on a yellow, got sent off for a second bookable offence. So you've got a goal, you're down to 10 men with a mountain still to climb. Most games you'll see that sort of drift out and the result will be as it is when you go down to 10 men. But Kane, Thompson, Summers had another idea, and with just 8 minutes left, he curls a beautiful shot into the edge of the box to snatch a 2-2 draw. And the weirdest part, you guys did exactly the same thing against Barnet, if I'm right, when he was 2-0 down away from home, fighting back for the 2-2 draw. So with all that said, speaking fan to fan here, I don't know whether to congratulate you or not on this one. On one hand, coming back from 2 goals shows incredible spirit, as we've talked about earlier in the podcast with other teams that have done it this weekend. But giving teams 2-goal head starts is something you don't want to get in the habit of doing. So does this result feel like a 0.1 or a lucky escape?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I think before I saw the lineups, I would have said that's 2 points drop for us. But given the circumstances, you actually absolutely take 1 point. It's obviously not ideal, but if you can't win, don't lose. And I'm so glad that you brought up the Barnet game, because that's 2 away games in a row where we've made a 2-goal comeback. Which, I mean, obviously it's not great to go behind by 2 goals, but it's nice to know that you can never count us out, and we're sort of developing a reputation for that. Even in the Grimsby game at home a while back, we were down to 10 men, and we brought a three goal deficit down to just a 1, and ended up finishing 3-2. So we're never truly out of the game until it's actually over, which is nice. We just need to get to the point where we can iron out some of the mistakes in the first place. If I'm looking at the first goal, that for me is entirely on Marvin Ekpateta. All he has to do is put his foot through it, and then it's not a problem. But he didn't. He just passed it straight into the opposition players, and it's an easy 1-on-2 for them. And yeah, obviously gave them a nice lead. The second goal, I've question marks over the officials, because I feel like that was offside, but we'll move on, because we all know what I think of League Two officials. But for me, it's frustrating. Just from a goalkeeping perspective, I absolutely love Craig McGillivray, but you have to play to the whistle. So if the linesman is busy like watching the clouds or something, then you've kind of just got to try and make the save and not hesitate, which is unfortunately what kind of looks like that's what happened there. But then the comeback, which was absolutely fantastic from us, to be fair. And it's, I believe it's our 14th and 15th different scorers of the season in John Mellish and Kane Thompson-Sommers. 2, I'd say, reasonably well-worked goals. By the way, for a wing-back to be doing a little tap up and volley into the back of the net from the edge of the box, that is outrageous. We'll absolutely take that. Yes. And the other point to take from it is that we've got a couple of players that we've brought back from injury, Aaron Collins and Gethin Jones. Both of them seem to have made it through that unscathed, which is a huge plus because Aaron Collins was kind of the talk of the summer, the whole, this major big name striker signing, and we've not really seen him play yet. And we've also got Callum Patterson returning from suspension, and Nathaniel Mendes-Lang should be good to play as well. So instead of playing our 6th choice striker, who's now suspended, great job, John, we're going to have a very good looking front line indeed for the next one. So hopefully we'll see a bit of a shift there, and we can actually, maybe go ahead instead of 2 down. But I don't know, point's a point. You take it, you move on. Given how close the league is, we could have dropped a whole lot further than we did. The only cost of us not winning is, instead of going up a place to 2nd, we've gone down a place to 4th. So it's not like we're out of it. So we'll take it.
No, I think that's right. I think it's a 0.1 really there. And from the position that you were in, again, you're right. You're showing that you can come back from being down and being in those positions, and that's a sign of a really good team. So yeah, a good result, I think. And from a Tranmere point of view, they'll see it as 2 points lost, because they were 2-0 up against a strong MK Don side. But even really in reflection of it, they would have taken a draw, I reckon, before the start of the day. So I think both teams can go away quite happy with their performances in the end. So that's our 6 featured games. We're going to go through the rest of the action from League Two now, because we've got some big stories here as well, from stunning free kicks to some historic victories. So first up, we head to Priestfield for Gillingham against Barnet. It was a good game, this. Barnet took the lead after 20 minutes. Idris Kanu used a lot of his body, should I say, an interesting decision there. He did use a lot of his body. to hold off a challenge and tee up Callumstead for a tidy finish. But Dak was everywhere. He cleared a Ryan Glover shot off the line to keep it Gillingham in it, and then right on the stroke of half time, he produced a moment of magic. We're talking a 25-yard free kick up over the wall, right into the top corner. I was out of my seat just as the ball got over the wall because it looked like it was going in straight from the foot. And yeah, Kieran Secker in the Barnett goal was at full stretch and still couldn't get near it. So yeah, a great goal from Dak, and again showing the quality that he's got and why he's such a great player for us at this level. But the second half was a bit tighter. Dak's free kick was worth the admission price alone, and it's another point picked up for both teams. Next, we go to Harrogate versus Walsall, where high-flying Walsall got back to winning ways with a really professional 2-0 win over Harrogate. The first goal was pure class from Daniel Carnu. He got the ball from Jamil Matt, rode a challenge from Anthony O'Connor, and then used some brilliant trickery to leave Beryl on the floor before rolling it in. Just superb composure. Harrogate tried to fight back. Sean Mikulski had a decent effort save, but Walsall killed it off late on, with Farkhausen, who had his first start after 15 months, scoring in his first game back with a powerful header into the corner from the 87th minute. And there we go. That's 4 straight home defeats for Harrogate, who are now in a really bad spot themselves. Barrow Cambridge finished up Barrow 0, Cambridge 2, and it was really the Pelly Ruddock and Banzu show here. After a goalless first half, Barrow missed a sitter. Raheem Harper had a free header. He put it wide, and Cambridge made them pay. And Panzu broke the deadlock 5 minutes into the second half, slotting home after a rebound from the initial shot. Barrow pushed for an equaliser, but Cambridge caught them on the counter, and Ellis Kachanga played the ball across, and Mpanzu was there again to tuck it away for his second. A massive 2-0 win for Cambridge, and it puts them within a point of the playoffs. This was my game of the day next, which was Bromley 2, Salford 0. And history was made here because Bromley beat Salford for the very first time, and they did it comfortably. They rode their luck early on. Salford hit the post in a mad goal-mouth scramble, but Bromley punished them immediately. Suumi headed in across, as he often does, putting them up 1-0, and then just past the half an hour mark, Hondermark hit a speculative half volley that the keeper just didn't see until it was too late. So that was 2-0, and from there, Bromley just shut up shop, professional, disciplined, and it moves them right into the automatic promotion places. Cheltenham 1, Bristol 0. Bristol Rovers 0, I should say. I don't want to anger any Bristol Rovers fans. A tenth one in the West Country derby. This was low on quality, but huge on drama for the managers. It finished 1-0 to Cheltenham thanks to Jonathan Tompkins' first ever senior goal. He slotted in a corner at the back post with about 20 minutes left. But the real story is the pressure on Darrell Clarke. That is now 7 straight league defeats for Bristol. They actually started well. Ellis Harrison volleyed one over, but once they went behind, they never looked like scoring. A nightmare return for Clarke to his old club. And finally, a stalemate at the Broadfield Stadium, where Crawley scored one goal, Acton scored another. And, Acton, they took the lead through Everton loanee Isaac Heath, who diverted a shot into the net after some good work by Donald Love. It looked like they were going to hold on, but Scott Lindsay made a substitution that changed everything. Where have we seen this before? I remember last week against Gillingham. He brought on Tismanga in the 66th minute, and I kid you not, seconds later, with his first touch, he fires home the equaliser. Credible impact yet again. Super sub, here he is. And it finished 1-1, which keeps Acton's unbeaten run alive at 6 games. So, Luke, lots to chew on there. You've got Bromley's cracking into the automatics, Cambridge surging towards playoffs, but surely our first talking point has to be that Bristol Rovers game, where 7 straight losses in relegation form, you could say. And, does Darrell Clarke survive this, or is the writing on the wall? What do we think?
It's unfortunate because I don't think he's necessarily the problem. I think the problems are potentially deeper within the club, but ultimately, when it's a results-based business, the buck stops with the manager, and I think it may be a case of one or two more poor results, and he could well be gone. And it is a frustrating thing because Bristol Rovers controlled that game. They had so many chances; they were all over it the entire time, but their finishing was atrocious. And ultimately they've just been punished for that because all it took is one chance going the other way, and that's been enough to cost them the 3 points. And well, given the state of things currently, that's a team that's currently around them in the table as well. So it just kind of adds a bit of misery to it in terms of context. Unfortunately, I can't see this ending particularly well for Darrell Clarke at this point, which is a shame because, like I said, I rate the manager highly, I rate this squad highly, but something does have to change. And unfortunately, the only real thing you can change, unless there is some significant change in backroom staff or whatever else it may be, it's only really the manager that can go. And unfortunately, I think it could be him that goes.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? You're right. I do really rate the team, and I rate him as a manager. It's just it's not been clicking, and losing against Cheltenham, although they have been on good runs this season themselves, and they've had the manager bounce, and it's sort of settled in now. It would have been a game Bristol would have wanted to have got a good result in. So yeah, very disappointing game. We'll have to watch this space. You're right. Another couple of games or another few games, I think. And we're in a bit of a sticky place with him. What do you think about this Bromley result then? 2-0 against Salford. Salford themselves are on a bit of a dip now, but Bromley up in the automatic promotion spaces. They couldn't, could they? They couldn't? Oh, I don't know.
They could. If no one figures out how to stop the set piece goals, because that's another 2 now. That's kind of all I need to say. They scored 2 more set pieces and they won. That seems to be the story with Bromley more weeks than more often than not. It's another disappointing one for Salford. Obviously, they need to get some kind of reaction now because that's a couple of poor results on the spin after having opportunities to better their results. But yeah, Bromley very, very, very good. And I mean, if you weren't aware of them now, if you weren't aware of them before, you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And they. I don't know what are you thinking about Salford? Do you think Salford are going to come good in the end, or do you think they've been found out a little bit and they're sort of settling into it, or do we think they're going to come back with a bit of a bounce in the next few fixtures?
I would expect a reaction. I'd say. Obviously that's 2-2 defeats in a row, but before that, they had a few decent results there. They weren't too bad, to be honest. It's now just looking forward to the next game, and they are now back at home after a couple of games on the road against Crawley. So for me, that's a big opportunity, and that's where we're going to see a bit more of what this side is about. Obviously, we'll cover that in greater depth in the preview episode, which will go up midweek. So be sure to check that out when that goes up, as well as a very cool episode we've also got coming up, which I'll let you explain a little bit later.
Yeah. Any of the other fixtures caught your eye this week? Anything else that you wanted to add on to these games that I've gone through?
Yeah, a couple of points to make there. I'd say with the Crawley Accrington one, I think it was just important for both teams to not lose. So fair play, they did that. And as you've mentioned, that's 2-2 from the bench for Shimanga as well, which could be huge for his confidence. We know he can be quite a streaky player, so perhaps this could be his opportunity to break into the team. And then the other 2 games I spotted things from, Cambridge, Pellegrino and Panzu. As you said, this was a player we've kind of spoken about before, and we said he's not really bringing enough. We've kind of heard the same sort of thoughts from Cambridge fans as well. This was the first time where it felt like, okay, he's actually here to perform, and his quality has shone through in this game. Yes, there's a little bit of luck with the first one, but make no mistake, the second one's a very, very good finish. And that's, it's that level of quality that Cambridge are going to need if they're going to do well this season, because there still weren't many chances in that game. And it's a common theme with Cambridge games. There aren't many chances. Nothing's going to happen. So when your moment comes, you absolutely have to take it. And on that occasion, he has. So fair play, but that could potentially be, I think it's signs of improvement. It's probably the way I'd put it. They've got more progress to make there as a squad, but there are signs that they could perhaps improve. The only other thing I'm going to mention is Walsall. I was very, very impressed with them, which I feel like it's probably the first time I've said that this season, because so far this season I would have said they're a little bit overrated. But to be fair to them, this is the first result I've gone, you know what, they've actually done very, very well there. And it's not just, oh yeah, it's a 2-0 against Harrogate, good job. It's, they controlled this game. They asserted their style of play onto this game. There was never a moment where I thought Harrogate were getting anything from it. So it very well controlled, some good finishing, and this is for me the first real indication that the Walsall are a side that could potentially be challenging, hopefully us, for the title. but that's the longer storyline, which will no doubt be keeping an eye on throughout the season.
Absolutely. I mean, from my point of view, I hope they're challenging Gillingham for the title, but you never know. You never know. So again, another good week of League Two fixtures. Lots of great games in there, and we'll be back again next week to preview and review all the rounds of fixtures. As well as that, next week we've got a very exciting podcast coming up where we've got Barrow's Andy Wing coming onto the show, and please send in your questions. I know there was a tweet about it. Put your questions there and we'll pose them to him. League Two has some great characters and he's certainly one of them, and he's played with countless players, and his experiences of non-league as well are going to be really good to dive into. So that's something to look forward to. So keep your eyes out on the channel for that. So yeah, all that's left to say is thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe and tell everyone about the League Two Lowdown. And yeah, make sure you go to our new Twitter as well. I've been Harry. He's been Luke. Thank you for watching and listening to the League Two Lowdown.